the human settlement lay quiet under the twin moons, their pale light casting long shadows across the cracked metal roofs and dusty roads. The wind whispered through the abandoned crates and broken machinery, carrying the faint smell of oil and rust. The foreman had long thought the night was empty, yet something in the darkness made his skin prickled. From the edge of the forest, a movement flickered, something massive and low to the ground. The shadows shifted and revealed a wolf, larger than any beast he had ever seen. Its fur shimmered with colors that seemed wrong for this world, glowing faintly green and purple under the moonlight. Its eyes were like molten silver, fixed on the tiny human settlement and measuring every detail. Its breathing was slow and deliberate, every muscle visible under the taut, alien skin behind. It followed a second wolf, smaller, thinner, and clearly in pain. Its body shivered with each step, her belly swollen and tight, her ribs showing through her fur, as if the hunger had carved them deep. Her head hung low, and her breathing was shallow. She stumbled once, and the larger wolf nudged her with a gentle strength that belied its size. The foreman felt a chill run down his spine, the creatures moving with purpose and intelligence, not the randomness of animals. The first wolf paused at the edge of the clearing, its nose twitching in the air. It inhaled deeply, sensing the humans before them. It lowered its head almost in respect, or perhaps as a signal to the other wolf. The pregnant wolf hesitated, then limped forward, her paws scraping against the rocky ground. She glanced back once at her mate, and the connection between them was palpable. The larger wolf moved around her side, shielding her from view, as if nothing in the world could threaten her safety. Foreman stood frozen on the tower, unable to breathe for fear of disturbing the moment. The wolf turned its glowing eyes toward him and held his gaze for a heartbeat that felt like an eternity. There was a silent message in that look, a plea, a warning, or perhaps a test. He could feel the weight of the alien presence pressing on his mind and body. He wanted to raise his weapon to protect his settlement, but his instincts told him to wait to see what would happen next. The wind picked up, carrying the sound of distant metal scraping. The pregnant wolf whimpered softly, and the deadliest wolf nudged her forward, encouraging her to take the next step. The human foreman felt a strange stirring inside, a mix of fear, awe, and curiosity. He could not look away from the creatures that had chosen his settlement as their meeting place. The foreman could not tear his eyes away from the wolves, even as his heart hammered. In his chest he felt every instinct screaming at him to retreat, yet he stood frozen, rooted to the tower, as if some invisible force held him there. The larger wolf shifted slightly, its massive paws silent on the rocky ground, its gaze never leaving him. Its body radiated strength and intelligence, and something older than anything the foreman had known. The pregnant wolf stumbled again, the thin muscles in her legs quivering. She let out a low whine that echoed faintly through the settlement. The deadliest wolf circled her slowly, its movements deliberate and protective. Its head lowered and ears flicked toward the foreman, assessing his reaction, measuring whether he was a threat or an ally. He could feel the weight of their attention pressing on him like a living thing. The wind carried the smell of metal and blood and something else, something strange and alien. It made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The pregnant wolf shivered, and the larger wolf nudged her again, almost urging her to keep moving. She took a slow, unsteady step forward, then another, and the foreman realized with a jolt that she was coming closer to him, to the settlement. He wanted to call out a warning to the others, but no words would have captured what he felt in that moment. His mind raced with the possibilities of attack or escape, or worse yet, a trap. He held his breath as the wolves drew nearer, their eyes never leaving him. Their presence was almost hypnotic, alien, and terrifying. All at once, the larger wolf tilted its head, almost as if it understood him, and the foreman felt a strange pulse in his chest, a mix of fear and recognition. It was as if the creature could see inside his mind and weigh his intentions. He swallowed. Hardin lowered his hand from his weapon, slowly keeping his movements calm and deliberate. The pregnant wolf paused a few feet away, her head low and eyes flicking between him and her mate. The deadliest wolf stayed behind her, circling, protective and patient. It was the foreman who finally realized that they had not come to attack but to ask for something, to give them something he did not yet understand. The pregnant wolf took another hesitant step forward, her paws scraping against the dirt and stone. Her breathing was shallow and uneven, each inhale trembling. The deadliest wolf stayed behind her, circling slowly, its glowing eyes never leaving the foreman. Its presence was a wall of strength and warning. All at once he could feel the weight of its gaze pressing on him, as if it could see every thought flickering through his mind. The foreman swallowed hard and lowered his weapon further. He did not move toward them, yet he did not step back. Either he waited silently, feeling the pulse of tension in the air. The wolves were patient, deliberate, and intelligent, nothing like the predators he had known on this world or any other. The pregnant wolf whimpered softly and sank to her knees, then pressed her head briefly to the ground. Like a silent plate, Foreman could see every rib in her body sharp against her fur, the hunger in her eyes cut deeper than any fear. The larger wolf shifted closer, nudging her gently, as if to remind her he was there to protect her. He stepped slightly toward the settlement as a gesture of trust, and the foreman's heart leapt with a mixture of hope and fear. For the first time he realized the wolves had chosen him deliberately, not to strike, not to hunt, but to seek something only he could give. Something unspoken and urgent pulsed between them, a fragile link forming across the gap between human and alien predator. The air was thick with anticipation, and the foreman knew nothing would ever be the same. After this night, the deadliest wolf lowered its massive head toward the foreman, its glowing eyes locked on him with an intensity that made him feel small and measured. Its breathing was slow and deliberate, each exhale stirring the air between them like a living warning or a quiet request. The pregnant wolf shifted closer, her thin legs trembling. She pressed her body low against the ground and whimpered softly, a sound full of hunger and need. The Foreman felt a strange pull in his chest, a mixture of fear, awe, and empathy. He raised his hand slowly, not toward a weapon but as a gesture of calm. The larger wolf watched every motion, its head tilting slightly, as if understanding. He stepped a fraction closer to the pregnant wolf, and she sniffed the air cautiously, then lowered her muzzle toward his outstretched hand. Time seemed to stretch, and the wind carried the faint scent of alien fur and distant metal. The pregnant wolf nudged her head gently against his palm, and the deadliest wolf circled protectively around her. Still watching him with those unblinking eyes, the foreman realized with a jolt that they were asking for help, not demanding it, and in that moment he understood the gravity of what he faced. The foreman froze, his hand hovering just above the pregnant wolf's muzzle, his mind racing with every warning. He had ever heard stories of alien predators tearing through settlements and leaving nothing but carnage behind. Yet, as he looked into the desperate eyes of the thin creature, he felt a tug of something unfamiliar, a pull of responsibility, and a spark of empathy that he could not ignore. He remembered the weight of the settlement on his shoulders, the workers counting on him, the nights of fear and uncertainty, and he realized that this moment demanded a different kind of courage. The deadliest wolf circled closer, its massive paws silent on the ground, its gaze sharpened, assessing every flicker of movement in his body. It was patient and measured, like a judge weighing his intent. Pregnant wolf whimpered softly and pressed closer, nudging his hand again. Her ribs scraped against his palm, and the foreman could feel the fragility of her body and the urgency of her need. The wind carried the scent of alien fur and something sharper, something that hinted at the wild intelligence behind those eyes. The foreman swallowed hard and knelt slowly, bringing himself closer to them. He felt his heart hammering with fear and anticipation. He spoke no words but allowed his presence to show calm and trust. The deadliest wolf lowered its head and sniffed the air between them, signaling approval, and the pregnant wolf pressed her head fully against his hand, finally letting go of her fear for the first time since arriving. The foreman stayed kneeling, his hand resting lightly on the pregnant wolf's head, feeling the heat of her body, the rapid thrum of her heartbeat against his palm. He could feel the tension leaving her muscles slowly as she relaxed just enough to trust him for a moment. The deadliest wolf circled closer, keeping a careful watch over her eyes, never leaving the foreman, its massive, moving barrier of strength and silent warning. He looked around the settlement, searching for anything that could help, something to ease her hunger or quench her thirst. His eyes fell on a crate of preserved rations and a small barrel of water left out for the workers. He rose slowly, careful not to startle them, and carried the supplies back, the pregnant wolf following his movements with cautious curiosity, her ears flicking at every sound, her tail low and quivering but slowly relaxing as she sensed no threat. The foreman set down the water first and gestured for her to drink. The wolf hesitated for a heartbeat, then dipped her muzzle into the liquid, greedily lapping up every drop while the deadliest wolf watched silently, assessing every move. She drank in desperate gulps, her body trembling with relief and exhaustion. The foreman brought the rations next, placing them within reach. She sniffed cautiously, and then began tearing at the food ravenously, as if she had not eaten in days. The foreman stood back, letting her eat, feeling a mixture of awe and unease at the sight of such raw need. The larger wolf shifted closer, circling protectively as the pregnant wolf fed. It lowered its head, once toward the foreman, in what seemed like a gesture of respect, acknowledgement, or perhaps a silent agreement that he was safe for now. The foreman felt a shiver run through him. The bond, fragile and unspoken yet undeniably ours, seemed to pass in silence, except for the sounds of eating and breathing. The foreman stayed near enough to ensure their safety, but far enough to let them have space. He realized that this was more than a moment of survival. It was a turning point, a bridge between species, a fragile trust born of desperation and cautious respect. The wolves had chosen him, and he had chosen to meet them halfway. The pregnant wolf finally settled on the ground, her body heavy and trembling from hunger, but calmer now, her breathing slowing, as she chewed carefully at the rations. The deadliest wolf remained standing nearby, its massive frame casting a long shadow across the clearing, its glowing eyes fixed on the foreman, as if measuring his every action. He could feel the weight of its gaze pressing into him, a constant reminder of the power and intelligence behind those alien muscles. He knelt a few steps away, watching her eat, feeling a strange mix of fear and awe. He had never seen creatures like this before, their bond unspoken and raw, their movements precise and deliberate. The pregnant wolf glanced up once at the larger wolf, then back at him as if to show trust, or perhaps to gauge whether he was worthy of it. The deadliest wolf circled slowly, as if to confirm her safety, while silently judging the foreman's intentions. The wind whispered through the settlement, carrying the faint metallic scent of machinery and something wilder, something alien. The foreman realized that these wolves were not mindless predators, they were thinkers, planners, strategists. They had come seeking help, not to attack, not to destroy, but to survive, and to protect the one they loved most. He felt a shiver run down his spine, the enormity of their intelligence dawning on him. The pregnant wolf pressed her muzzle gently against his hand, a silent gesture of gratitude or trust, and the foreman felt something shift. Inside him he had expected fear and aggression, but instead he found connection and responsibility. The deadliest wolf lowered its massive head toward him, almost in acknowledgement, signaling that the fragile truce was real, and that their lives were now intertwined. The foreman knew that this moment would change everything for the settlement and for him. He could feel the weight of the choice ahead, the trust of beings stronger and wiser than any human, yet also vulnerable and desperate for care. The air hung heavy with tension and anticipation as the wolves ate and rested, and he began to understand that survival was no longer just about humans. It was about the bond he had forged in silence, and the fragile bridge between worlds. The foreman watched the wolves carefully, his mind racing with the weight of what he was seeing. He could feel the intelligence in their movements, the thought behind every twitch of an ear, every flick of a tail. The deadliest wolf circled the pregnant mate, slowly, its eyes never leaving him, and he understood that this was more than survival. This was strategy and calculation, mixed with care and protection. The pregnant wolf laid down her body, finally relaxed, but still alert. She raised her head and looked at him with eyes that spoke of hunger, fear, and trust all at once. The foreman felt a strange ache inside, as if the connection between them had bypassed language entirely. The creatures had chosen him deliberately, not by accident, not by proximity, but with understanding of who he was and what he could offer. He realized that their visit would change everything. The settlement could no longer see the world as only human and dangerous. The wolves were beings with purpose, with thought, with needs that demanded consideration. They had entered his world, not as conquerors, but as supplicants, seeking aid and forming a fragile bond that could not be broken lightly. The deadliest wolf lowered its head and let out a soft rumble, almost like a statement of understanding or agreement. The foreman knelt beside the pregnant wolf and let his hand rest lightly on her side, feeling the rapid beat of her heart and the life growing within her. He understood the enormity of the moment, the responsibility now resting on his shoulders, and the silent promise made between species. The night stretched on the moons, casting silver light over the settlement and the alien wolves. The foreman felt a shift inside himself, a mixture of fear, awe, and resolve, knowing that from this night forward nothing would ever be the same, and every shadow could hold wonder, danger, or unexpected trust. The wolves remained near the edge of the settlement, their bodies low and alert, yet calmer than before. The deadliest wolf rested its massive head on its paws, its glowing eyes still fixed on the foreman, as if guarding and judging at the same time. The pregnant wolf lay beside it, her belly full and her breathing steady, her trust in him clear in every movement. The foreman knelt a few feet away, watching them, feeling the weight of the fragile bond that had formed between human and alien predator. He understood that they had chosen him, and that in turn he had accepted their trust. It was a responsibility he could not take lightly, and one that would change the settlement forever. The wind whispered through the buildings, carrying the scent of alien fur and earth, and something older, something wild and eternal. The foreman knew that the wolves would remain near, for a time, watching, protecting, and learning as much about him as he had about them. The settlement slept, unaware of the intelligence and purpose at its borders, yet the foreman could feel it in every shadow, every movement, every cautious sound. He rose slowly, his eyes on the wolves, and nodded almost like a promise. They lifted their heads in unison, their glowing eyes meeting his for a heartbeat that felt like a silent agreement. The pregnant wolf gave a soft whine, and nudged her mate. The deadliest wolf stood and stepped back, allowing them to settle the space between them, safe for now and forever changed. The foreman turned back toward the settlement, feeling awe, fear, and hope mingled in his chest, knowing that this night marked the beginning of something larger than himself, something alive and dangerous and beautiful all at once.